Struggle of aligning your stand.
I'm going to turn this desk around. You'll like slow and clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hey. So read again?
Yeah.
Contention was the ethics of the real. One traditional ethics opposed good behavior with a rational apparatus creates a conservative ethic of crisis control. We define ourselves in opposition to a rational acts we never partakes in chronic decay. What can never gain the ethical means of rational elevation? We must resist the temptation of finding ethics which events about irrational purification percentages, misleading about facilitation of cosmological arguments, and it was true, very important argument. The claim that Jim, whether the gladness always observes an end, ethic never simply the result of improvement or a may. If a man has become morally good, he can appear about to gradual information. So as long as the base of maximum remains pure, must be affected to revolution remains its position. It's only through the tempest of a moment of exile, creativity, allows the opening of truth, theoretical materialism, and two, this is impossible laws. A sovereign mediator of ethical conflict, reform calculation, 1203, ethical George politics on and determining conflict issues submit ethical demand because ethics is non-normative. To drive a legal political rule from a decision of ethical responsibility would be to displace the responsibility onto a calculation. Thus would itself be unethical. It's something that release one further responsibility for the decision that makes a legal political distinction. A decision that can only rest on something like mystical foundation. Legal political distinction only be determined on the basis of something that resembles your faith. And three, externalizing ethical responsibility crosses upon psychoanalytic interrogation. God itself should align with morality defines the responsibility. Paul, Santilio 3, precisely in the way the Kant describes radical evil urges for breaking down by the suffering of well-intentioned men caused by failures in the subjective will. Evil society stems from the will's original disordered ordering of incentive that puts love ahead of allegiance to moral law. This way, the change of the root end is by act of will. The article affirmation is your virtue will not. Since acquisition itself of evil motives, the human truth, the rational transformation of the human subject, and connection to subjective is psychoanalytically coherent for three reasons. One, euphemism. See Frapos and city folk Trump hands are flip sides of the same narcissistic coin. Neoliberalism acknowledges traditional processes are replaceable with vineyard church cannibalism because what is PC with a verbal form of gentrification, spiritual living up, get rid of the ugly, so create a false sense of paradise. Bar 16. In a neoliberal economy, other diversity to the marketable awareness, culture of social acceptance, don't work around of actual tolerance, gay pride sponsored by KDB, Creole being sponsored by Denver, and diversity is bad, but neoliberalism is really good at co-option, but political systems can be much more dangerous than they were in the days of yore because they're just so dang pleasant. Being a PC bros, warm discipline, which allows you to overcome racism, misogyny, and so on. It's a nice being troubled with the same discriminatory reality and so overfilled and rally against just self-satisfying access to justice change and rebelling to another commodity. This is disarmed. You can have a good neoliberal consumer, something like you're running in. PC culture isn't tolerated. We love to accept everybody's as long as we can pigeonhole them into a kind of difference we can consume on. We can one end of the 12-year-old who just wanted the N-word and Xbox Live, on the other hand, the prequel of the confused social justice for wanting to live in a bubble behind both sides of the deep-rooted narcissism, two projection, and the pursuit of domination, benevolence, etc., which ignores us from narcissistic less empowerment and the opposition of free speech, the most non-mainstream opinions are the most viable, which is routine. Freedom of speech, meaningless means of freedom of risk, we think differently, refuge and false security, consensus from the Cole's diaries. I learn more about the third right than a different study in Oxford. Every time you violate free speech, everything we're offering you back to whom? You want the right to decide which speech is harmful. What can you consider? What can you read? It may not be determined events where words are outlined as a knowledge required to make that call. One is suspect the winners of ones who do those are determined to be offended. I'm the receptive confusion being opposed between belief in the multicultural. I think the Republicans will say don't put your hands on the Bible and call the speech police. Do I think that some laws can solve this problem? No. 3. Authoritarianism. The world is unequal, and so is our speech. Critics of free speech. I think the rhetoric enhance rather than resistance and equality. Their form of politics designed to provide for the purpose of bona fides, non-combat injustice. Goal 15. And with purpose, one demonstration of hundred for conservative views, demands for trade, starting authoritarianism, environmentalism, encouraging the business after you or free speech, rhetoric of free speech, is being abused to check on dissent. Free speech must protect bigots. The right to be delighted. Movement for housing victimization. Having students actually say that they want to ban conservative views confirms their suspicions. The PC virtual life service to the champions of unfettered exchange of ideas, sort of by PC were powerful for only the rights benefit of students really want to do. Really believe campuses are bastions of structural oppression. How are they convinced that restriction on free speech will be used against the oppressed and the impact of scapegoating? A. Censorship culture cultivates a desire for control and vengeance of crime society. You accept violence. Suavos 16. It's a problem on college campuses with the problem of punish people who didn't want idea. People were so fierce that we give the power to any major student in opposition to it. Students sharing these insulting behavior because it forces a campus good thing are outraged by it. It's about vengeance for social oppression. If you're a leftist, you can't understand why someone would get so better for being told so words are hurtful. Your failure to acknowledge this as deliver the country of your trusted media. Paranoid externalization causes extinction on under 3. Not letting constitute decreasing anxiety provoked by correction, government and working people constantly keep media discrimination and environmental devastation. The threat to our integrity as a nation who's no longer a web of complex internal forces, but in identifying the enemy, this societal from the rejection of present, impulses on release, dehumanize anyone that just violently disorder, sending narcissistic, paranoid, shield themselves from knowledge of the reality of our oppression, see, ignorance, rhetoric, function, the globalization, movement, militarism, hijack, people, citizens, anxieties, freedom, to a consensus for European policies, and connection 3, put the center on the couch, 1, strict will be against censorship, 4, 2, procedure will defense, eventually injury, speech, everyone else is made different, product, communication, the ideology of this made censorship, true, false, anything wrong, more right, insensitive, limited, it's like, okay. The Nazi revolution with its externalization of positive social activists in the future figured the Jew avoids competition with social activists in the Nazis, except when it caused pseudo change for anything in the course of which many things did change, and it's something that things would fundamentally remain the same as a field structure around failed to attempt to displace antagonism, psychoanalysis, where false acts, attacks, or wrongs, and can be properly rationalized reactions to that trauma introduced, exploited term, and representation is still untrue because of pathological ideological condition makes it pathological is that by subjective living investment in the figure of the Jew for Chester counters act, it must reverse the fantasy to act of critique concludes other arguments epistemologically related scenes of the prior question back in 91. There's no scientific basis regarding humans and namely aggressive attempts to exploit the psychoanalytic groups of identity or which constantly following life and accept psychologically explanation things by enemies real is essential to be making a superior weak military and political power together. Scientific our date weaknesses is not just the driving months of infiltration of the threat of storms of perception. We have to learn how to create the enemy, no right for any image removed. Last section we never say our enemy with any objectivity. We're not talking critically about our enemies. Something for us. We more begins in the mind. We individuals start personal responsibility. Leaders of large groups, psychological mechanisms are they call individuals to kill with the question if we're not the image of the enemy enables violence. And there's no unified hegemonic position. Hegemony always gets a seat of destruction. Speeches of a radical tradition we can use to resist is 15. European tradition is marked by a series of debate mechanisms only made effectively fight Eurocentrism from within solidarity economic to the solidarity struggles by a dialogue of cultures. Egalitarianism is not part of Western core values and the result of a long struggle against politics and capitalism. Freedom of speech is not ingredient in liberal capitalist societies was hard won through popular struggles and rejecting the fear of co-option. Small forms can have huge system altering consequences. This is 98. These European co-op makes a search more purity is a simple strategy of marginalization, subversion, combat comes with UV. These small business and local resources versus and the effect of radical rejection on everything can have large catastrophic consequences and reforms to subversive criticism sustains assessment 667. What can pressure of under flash concept motion radical transformation form and much ultra scale consequences rapid changes supported by the system.
Kind of system.
So you have to, can you just read it on my laptop?
Yeah.
Ready for this?
Yeah.
Adam's good?
Yeah.
Alright. Let's go to the first card. Explain this card.
Okay, so a few things. The NC relies, or so NCs in general, like field positions, rely on this notion that like rational moral agents are able to will actions via some sort of prescribed intent. However, psychoanalysis would view this as like a very surface level understanding of what intent is. It's disproven that like we intend to do specific things. So for example, if I want to give Tomasi a sandwich, I believe my intent is to be nice to him. However, I could subconsciously be trying to manipulate him because I have a fear of white people and want to control them.
How do we determine what
psychoanalytic
subconscious
drama
desires
we don't
are?
recognize. What?
How do we determine subconscious desires?
So it is not a question of understanding subconscious desires. The argument is that we can never understand subconscious desires, which is why these sort of rational frameworks always fall and are incoherent.
So then
Our
what's the
argument is that we
alternative?
must. So there's like, I don't know what you mean by alternative. The argument is that psychoanalysis tries to perceive of a universal founding trauma by which all of our
subconscious drives are developed. What is a universal founding trauma?
So each psychoanalysis gives like a different example of what this might be.
Well, what's your universal founding trauma?
Well, I don't know what mine particularly is, but that's a very personal question, Lavanya.
What's the universal founding trauma that the AC talks about?
So I think there are, like, this doesn't really, it's different for every person, but one of the examples of ours is like, so Freud would say that the separation of the child from the mother by the father is a founding trauma that causes you to want to do things like resist authority. You see the father as the authority figure, and then engraves within you like a psychoanalytic or a drive to want to resist and rebel. Also gives you like a fear of authority.
I just like want to know how like this idea of a universal founding trauma like relates to any of the offense in the AC.
So a few things. So in terms of like the AC, so by the way, that's not the only arguments against like framework positions, so to speak. But if we want to talk about the contention level, so first is like this euphemism example that narcissism or like these psychoanalytic drives create narcissism that believes that traditional politics can actually change anything. So it gives the example
how can
of like
how can we determine what the universal founding trauma of like the actor in the resolution is? Like how do we tell like why?
I think you're misunderstanding the argument. Like the argument is itself that one of the arguments, for example, is that the sovereign cannot mediate ethical claims because the sovereign is a calculator, not a normative, not like a normative individual.
Explain that.
Explain. Yeah. So law and calculation and ethics are all like mutually exclusive projects. Laws are not based on like objective rational principle or universalizability or something. They're calculated.
Why are laws not based on objective?
Okay,
like, why can't laws be based on universalizability?
So that's just like that's a misunderstanding of what laws are. Laws are calculative notions of what best preserves.
Wait, but like where's the warrant for why that is what laws must be? Like why can't we just have a content?
That is the Dershowitz 03 evidence that he already examines like Kantian notions of what laws are. He relies on like Derrida's interpretive notion of what law would be, and that like excludes the
What's
idea
the warrant
of
of Dershowitz? Is what I've been asking for the past 3 questions.
So like for example, you would not say, so the law is made up of many different individuals. The law does not like choose to uphold some sort of broader view of ethics because the law does not search for truth.
Can't individuals still have like some specific intent?
Well, okay, that means they have no unified intent. But the second thing is like, so the law does not search for truth. The law, like the purpose of the law is not to be like, we want to know what is justice, what is truth itself, but rather
wait, where's the warrant that that's not the purpose of the law? I feel like that's what the U.S. government tells itself that we're
what you think that so the U.S. government makes all decisions not based on what benefits the welfare of its people or what keeps us out of a state of nature and makes us a cohesive society, but rather on what Kantian notions of morality might be, and we have to find exactly what truth is. When is the last time Trump or Obama got up and was like, okay, from now on, all citizens must perceive of truth as a universalized.
Connor, I want to know the warrant in Dershowitz.
I've been explaining to you. You seem to just like not accept the fundamental principle that you do not understand like the purpose of a law. The law does not mean to search for universal truth. The law is meant to protect us or keep us out of some sort of state of nature, as you would say.
Right, like you keep making this empirical claim about what the law is. Where's an empirical warrant that justifies that this is what the law is?
The empirical warrant is that no law functions in the way you're positing that it does. So there are many different things. Like the individual autonomous people that make up the law. Okay, well. Keep going back on it, we'll do 1 hour extensions of it.
Are there any arguments in the AC that can preclude tier theory?
Tier theory? I mean, but specific to the interpret, no, not a problem.
Okay.
Well, actually, you might I take that back. I just thought of a way in which it can be applied. Yes,
okay.
Like in terms of like a psychoanalytic drive, it is so like T in theory or like interps sort of mimic the way in which censorship is imposed upon bodies. Your sort of will to impose like an interp upon us or rule for debate is just like contingent on your like selfish desires to want to impose will on us or like narcissistic desires that you believe you can be as a mediator of laws.
That's right. 249 years to be no Order will be 2 off AC. Set. There'll be like a quick overview, and then I'll read the 2 offs, and then I'll.
Overview, I should tell me after.
Yeah, sure. I'm ready, but you all are.
Yeah, I'm good.
Are you good? Okay. Overview to the AC psychoanalysis is really fucking dense, Tomasi, which means that if Connor doesn't actually explain his warrants, and doesn't actually explain the cards, don't call for the cards. Don't just read through the cards and come up with your own interpretation. Make sure that Connor has explained every single argument in the card before you vote on a card. Now, theory. A interpretation. The 2017 topic, the act specifying the text of the AC, whether their advocates to remove speech codes maintained by evader schools. Goal to 1 clarifies the distinction. I find two simple motives for new speech policies. Evader schools have delayed diffused more time, decisive decisions. Administrators and evaders understood constitutional law. They sought to draft policies that did not overtly contradict norms. They were willing to push the envelope a little. These violations and specify the C is the standards. Evader schools are the best grounds to maximize anti-discrimination, minimize legal liability. It's not obvious if they further negate their legally questionable policies have not been tested in court. Goal to 1 exercising the law 1 directly for response to preventing harassing people while still not running a valid case. College committed to reading on discrimination in the broad spectrum to apply during apply policies bigotry and widely and vigorous strategy for facial looking for a balance that allows the pass policy widely to enforce ways that do not operate legal complaint impacts ACL ground term to office such as opportunity to counsel caution for speech. Evaders speech goes small to less gaze makes space and centers the efforts to mitigate these from mouth and by topic correctly debates and come first ground to argumentation that will matter to evaders schools and best grounds and get to both side around me weighing grounds to the speech said how to maximize endowments said things depend on constitution protected speech is I don't know what arguments apply that's around abuse do you see restriction you can't vote on the app you don't know what details different generalization also makes the logical sense of who as to whether evaders schools are included on the benefit not in compromise to person even resolve the ability one resolution can ask this value to different acts evading delaying with 2 different motives limiting the liability not about creative resolve around one debater wins one action side loses the other result the keynote voter cannot be valid to be an arbitrary point the I've argued a key legal precision rule in education policy makes such a thing about nuances like this we're writing lots of literacy on top of these higher quality fashion education A point all the standards he's going to say that I'm imposing his will and his censorship A point not censorship I'm not saying that you can't do something wrong that you must do something see second argument is all the standards are reasons why provide the reasons why this is an important argument which they should prefer this on straight to lane now voters fairness and voter debate is competitive activity fairness because your ability to prove the false adopt debater one has an air for the student act that's everything self shoot the opposites are the severance good for you feeding and people here don't mind the aid the right line because debate is the having classes competing so we don't arbitrary too communities keep getting best possible education fairness that way no RBI one choice the year too much is constant from these cheating debaters who are good from the RBI constant from these students who love to watch you from being control control on pass logic things for computation for abuse you can theory your truth and that I like you know 5 RBI collection you will go all around theory next off NC presume that game now website finds the is that is always the rules of that and the concept of fair no so matters lots of fair value steps for those controversial some sort of species and properties and different avoid the cost of shifting away from the square seeing again it's harder to TSC aspect new from 2016 TSC enjoy the 24% side by supporters beyond that always and those joints and best competition that's fair because each framework we're unfree thinking space argument determines the fog of the we can't be first determined with false actions cause and determined depends on the chance to not constitute an randomness and schools control and determines that's more responsibility formal blatant aim we are certain that is a very person on with some men who's responsible for must be self-determined only acting according to the self-determined some content people character there's no freedom of one of these we can't say that not as chief proceeds which framework states different reasons the definition of all the acting one is actually determined after cause one that makes the edit because within the act each start to see consequences entirely from the self-blame is kind of reason this precludes this takes out psychoanalysis means that we don't know reason for example we do know reason because it's the internal reason that we tell ourselves to we cannot immorally evaluate subconscious desires because that's not within our control that's the pain definition that if your framework is true that would just mean that we can't evaluate any sort of morality at all and thus goodwill must predominate the motive for acting good do you feel this so action predominate over other motives whether one action we do is crucial because autonomy depends on how psychological cause autonomy is causality of reason for further since one goodwill is the only thing agent control consequence will always be influenced by external factors the only thing we can morally responsible for you would say someone was morally culpable for murder that's out of your control take out your psychological analysis stuff too you can even information out there will all the facts are uncertain, and wrong, and almost no consequences. They all do not have moral reason that they just not know anything. They don't presume the necessary information to do so. Be my friend with a high possibility of truth, even if more facts and what virtues, what democracies, what psychological analysis are not accessible to all ages. Be my friend with the equalities and all these facts is not only some members of society with access to their studies about empirical facts, complex and philosophical and changes, certain things that have done funded more prestigious universities, more likely to take more actions by virtue of having more information. Skip the and possible intuitions about morality requires finding methodologies with positive discussion towards the case it's been dark in the very morality shaping when it comes to the bottom two things first to invest what is objective right second to care about people has to be moral to care about people partially takes out your psychoanalysis stuff it means that there is some sort of a unified reason that we are there's some sort of unified reason for why we are acting. Also the answer just you can tap with the AC is because I will agree that acting on these subconscious desires might be a bad thing, but you do not provide a theory of the good, provide a theory of the right. You cannot say what we should do once we have identified what the bad thing is, whereas the AC says that we should have an intent not to do the bad thing. The AC framework can still be true on the NC, we just filter offense underneath it. Now offense. One, I can see that the AC framework has the correct theory of the good. Psychoanalysis might be the moral good. I just think that's what we do with that, but it's not about the consequences of our actions and our motivations. There's no fucking way that colleges are going to be acting based on psychoanalysis, which means that they won't be acting with goodwill. And to the administrators only remove speech because they're worried about lawsuits and publicity. Definitely not the motive you want. Simon 16. Fire 9% cases of persuasion can administrator broken code. That is publicity can administrator wary back on strength methods. Limited speech because administrators are put off by fire. Always a fire lobbying means the motives are not only philosophical. The administration and the acting fire sides who lobby them. And after you skip that card, now let's go to the AC overview to the offense. This theory is heteronormative, discourses like this contribute to violence. Penny and I homophobia persists in contemporaries and notes. Found discourse that hold that heterosexual constitutes foundation to society, contributes to forms of violence, heterosexual conforms to oppose positive normal sexual function to society, alternative forms of homosexual acts, which is adopted as a norm, holding potential yields psychotic consequences, interpretation of psychoanalysis, political effects. In this case, the solution non-heterosexual forms of these pathological function to society. Thus, we outside of holding institutionally accident, like heterosexuality is controlled on practice such as psychoanalysis and institution. People, it's proven, and CFC gives the example of a mother and a father. That's pretty heteronormative. And many critics say that the contour of group has structures like being character, often through the use of the term phallic, another representation of sexuality, critiques the entire study of psychoanalysis. Penny 09, because of feeding is not good enough, and metaphor, linkage, persisting, fallacies, no, purpose, signifies civilization, Lacan is unfortunately using paper language to stage sexuality, then his schema, so he's refining exclusionary, systematizes the term fallacy, it focuses specifically masculine account of subject formation, social life, and Lacanian schema is purification of the Lacan forces that fallacy, risk of tragedy, stigma definitely links with the AC because the entire field of psychoanalysis was designed in order to understand sexuality in a way that includes the female. Also, your first card is gendered. It says a man and it says he or she. Drop him on gender language. That's pretty messed up. And use of the Lacan's language is problematic. Using the theory and organization changes misogynistic and includes people without privilege. Penny, the problems that language is particular phrases is important, particularly when it comes to concepts that are due to ignorant the entire theoretical scheme of language. Choose to rely upon social body theory, those fallacies and heteros, including unfortunately new development for men in Japan, an area where people continue to experience marginalization based on their gender, and cut the card there, and cut the card at gender, and psychoanalysis in Spain, a reality bunch of 10 psychoanalysts, focus science practitioners who do not research, they do not include control group, do not achieve the possibilities of placebo effect psychoanalysis, and also have a single lab, they do not participate in scientific problems, and they do not submit their papers to scientific journals or forms of community cycle, to like their stomach that they are reference, admission, irrefuting, takes out the entire framework, this is not verifiable to determine what the universal trauma is or anything like that, which we kind of know whether your framework is too off the significant guidance 8 point. My framework is also because it's about the internal reason is the only one that matters because it's the only one that we can control, so it's the only one that we can have morally culpable for off the threshold evidence. There's no warrant if threshold evidence empirical thing without an empirical warrant. 2, I can say that a state can be a conjuring state can act with the good will because you can have a unified will that they all act towards. So obviously we would say that Occupy Wall Street have a very specific will, even if all different members have different universal traumas. There's no impact why we should look at the universal trauma first. All these centrally evidence the anti-collapses because I will agree that we should look at responsibility, but the question is just what we should do with that, and that is having an intent.
Are you good?
Yeah.
So the interpret just we're going to have like a plain text and one AC.
No, that's not the interpret at all. The interp is on the Jan 2016 topic. It's 2017 topic. The app must specify in the text of the AC whether their advocacy removes speech codes maintained by evader schools.
What is an evader school?
So that's clarified by the Goldo 1 evidence. So there's 2 types of speech policies. There's evader schools and delayed diffusers. Delayed diffusers basically like had speech codes, and then there was a court case that was like, no, you can't have those speech codes. And they're just like, fuck it, we'll just keep them. Evader schools, on the other hand, they saw the court case and they were like, okay, like we're going to try to evade these court cases and try to have speech policies that might or might not be legal, but they haven't been tested in court, so no one can really
So if the argument is just like some schools are sketchy and try to keep restrictions like via speech codes, if the app, like if the resolutional burden of the app is to fiat that people remove speech codes, why does it matter if they're an evader school or not?
Because you need to clarify whether the speech codes maintained by evader schools restrict constitutionally protected speech or not. Because
Wait, what do you mean? Wait, no, any speech code is not constitutionally protected. They're not constitutionally protected.
I would argue that's false, right? Because there are certain speech codes that
let me clarify this. So evader schools do not put limits on speech that are constitutionally protected. The act gets to fiat.
No, it's
all the
questionable in the
Constitution
case of
protected
invader
speech
school.
gets. Wait, what do you mean? It's what?
The entire point of an invader school is that they have set up their policy so that it's very difficult to determine.
Where
unclear.
does the card talk about their the speech that their policies are constitutionally protected?
Right. So our understanding of constitution.
Okay, but I don't want to be like your understanding of it. I want what your card says.
Sure. So let's go to the gold evidence. It talks about how administrators and debaters understand constitutional law, and they sought to draft policies that did not overtly contradict norms, but they were also willing to push the envelope. So they were like, huh, we know what constitutional law is. Let's try to work around.
So why do we presume neg aside from the structural difficulties of the negate?
So there's 3 arguments. You want me to go through all of them?
So okay, explain this determinism argument. Why is that a reason to presume neg?
It's not.
Okay, that's fine. What is the impact of determinism?
It's a framework warrant.
For what?
My framework.
Okay.
I read an NC.
We're gonna go in circles with this. So Kant. So why does reason solve determinism? What is the warrant of the Kant argument?
Sure. So the Kantian argument, so let's understand determinism first, right? The pink evidence says that determinism is true because the laws of physics mean that everything is causally determined, i.e. one end state causes another end state.
Okay.
The Kant argument is that the only thing that can escape this sort of link chain of empirical events is reason, because reason is the only thing that can precede these empirical states.
What is the warrant given for why reason is not bound by physics? Like your brain chemistry is still bound by physical rules.
Right. So I think there's a couple of distinctions to be made here, right? One, there's the thing, if a scientist were to study me and objectively look at me, they would have a certain conception of Lavanya.
Okay.
But my internal moral conception of who I am as a person, as a moral agent, that's different. I would argue that these two are distinct and separate things. So they may be true. Wait.
Is it just is it that there's no ability to understand sort of the metaphysical sense of the self in a scientific way?
It's not about the ability to understand a scientific way. Rather, it's that reason is atemporal because we can separate reason from the empirical facts that we are doing. So it's a quality of reason itself.
Okay, 127. It's going to be theory.
Are you going to be reading anything here?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. So the order is going to be theory, the AC, then the NC. There'll be like cross applications from the AC framework to the NC, of course. So like some of the extensions are sort of done on the NC. Is everyone good?
Broad analysis to their theory claims. The first claim is that CX obviously checks this argument, so we never specified any 1 to C, but in any rule, but in any intro like this, it means you could literally just ask me if we specified there after C removes the speech codes retained by invader schools. There's no argument in the NC by why CX wouldn't check this. The only offense you get here is that we have to specify standard text in the 1AC, but CX will obviously clarify these things. No, none of your standards or reason why you can make new arguments in the NR about why cross-X obviously wouldn't check. It is not a big issue for you. It's a few seconds here. Now, second is that the app gets durable fiat in terms of removing restrictions on speech that is not constitutional. Now, it's going to go to the next speech and extend the gold card is the reason why invader schools are able to negate this and question the constitutionality. The point is that the resolutional burden of the app is to prove that we roll and we protect constitutional speech, and therefore force schools or fiat schools will simply fiat schools will endorse free speech and not try and invade out of it. That is literally the burden we have. If this were the case, then it means we would never be able to debate the topic. It makes the affirming impossible because no school would deliberately impose restrictions, but deliberately overturn restrictions on speech just out of the will of its own heart. The Gould White card never says that this speech is actually constitutionally protected. It means we still get access to overturning these speech codes since they are not constitutional. The card at best just says they try and make it very difficult to decide whether or not a speech is constitutional, but does not provide offense for why it actually is, because there's no thesis claim for why we can easily roll it back. Durable fiat obviously solves this, outweighs all your standard arguments, because in the event it is impossible to affirm because we don't get durable fiat, then they minimize all your standard text. In general overview, you can see the swap 16 card as well as the Hitchin 14 card that you just have a vengeance on me to try and create a normative right, to try and create a rule. You have not determined your subconscious drives, reasons why you would want to read this theory, and reasons why you want to restrict the ability of me to read the app without the standard text means you are either trying to impose eventual theoretical interpretation when we should reject, or otherwise you are falling into the narcissistic lust for power that theory definitely gives you. Go to the AC. We will argue, you have conceded our offense, extend the euphemism offense. Only thing we need to read, the PC practice and debug the same narcissistic point that is verbal gentrification creates a sense of paradise, but in actuality, hate speech is just the neoliberal market trying to expand and make itself seem more reasonable. Massive offense for the AC you've conceded there, but you, the only offensive argument you've made is the arguments against Lacan, but Lacan's formulation of sexualization does not formulate women as an entity able to be integrated into a symbolic order. Rather, it asserts women's ontological priorities, the imperfect, which opens up the space subsequently filled by the mirage of the perfect. 693. Feminists are usually repulsed by Lacan's insistence that the feminism not all does not imply that women are somehow excluded. We would permit a fatal mistake if we were to read the resistance of infected feminists on simplistic civilization. Women's institution does not mean that their possible entity is prevented from being integrated into the symbolic order. It seems misogynist. If institution women is a truncated man actually asserts our ontological priority and replaces that of the invisible women if a man fills out the social lack of finds her as the limit. Just want to point to the example in cross-sex as the reason why the finding trauma is the mother separated from the child, but that is Freud's version of psychoanalysis, not Lacan's. Lacan views women as the integral part of psychoanalysis. There is no arguments you've made as why the gender binary itself is bad, but if you understand that the categories we view as gender are still integral to our understanding of psychoanalysis, that we cannot have an understanding of the subconscious, that's some sort of pre-subconscious formulation of the woman or the man, regardless of physical gender. Now go to the fill framework. One normative, you can see the normative ethics are impossible to use without the app. You can't evaluate the intent of an action without examining the subconscious motives behind those intents. I'd give you $1 million, you don't know if I'm altruistic, but I just want to subconsciously control you through guilt for the rest of your life. Turns are Kant standards. You say, Kant is at least probable that we can know the possibility of truth, but no, we never know this moral reasoning. You say we can't know our subconscious drives. Our argument is yes, we can unveil this founding trauma through an act. Second, the analytical philosophy is contradictory. It gives you rules, tells you not to do them. Cannot that action make the world better? You can only be moral when confronted with an ethical delusion, because zero explanatory power for 99% of the things we do in life are all, our act does motivate action. It is a question of whether or not we can take action by examining internally ourselves, understanding why we want to commit action, rather than having a prescriptive norm that says you ought not do X when opposed to an action. And gradually, that's the possibility of an act of freedom. We don't want to become moral subjects. The Platonic evidence is really good here that our obligation to universal duties are contingent on our own experiences, not some rational moral framework.
Can you delete what you didn't read?
Yeah. So, I can delete these if you want. The last two arguments were paraphrased, not read word for word.
I think, yeah, this one's good. Does anyone remember how much prep I used? I used 3 minutes.
3 minutes, I'm presuming.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
So I'll take 2 more.
Yeah.
Oh, there's 5 minutes of prep? Okay, well.
Connor.
2 AR.
There should be a rollover, so if you give a stand at 2 AR, you get 2 minutes for it.
Just give me like more time for the 2 AR.
Okay, 2 minutes used. I'm going to be reading some analytics. I'm just going to send them in the text of the email.
That's
Okay, so order is going to be that overview of like turns stuff that I read on the case. Then it's going to be T starting on my interp, his interp, the overview is all signpost, and then the NC.
Cool.
There will be lots of signposts to consider.
overview, the app, theory,
And then
NC.
Are you good, Connor?
I'm good.
Good, Adam? Okay. Connor has conceded 2 independent voters in that turned out to extend the first argument that the CS example was incredibly heteronormative because assumed a mother and a father you say do not impact out heteronormativity. Yes, I do. You can extend the Kenny Carter to that are really bad because it perpetuates the violence and the violence that occurs against bodies that do not conform with this specific idea. You are fighting this even more in your wonder explanation because you say that we need to have some kind of understanding of 2 genders, but the problem is that it's super duper heteronormative because you can assume that everyone falls into that and there's violence against bodies who don't fall into that specific category. Don't buy the card that you party with. This talks about sexism, but he's not responding to the specific claiming the Kenny which says that Lavanya is super duper heteronormative. Prove it in this specific round, even if you don't defend that. Even if you don't defend the specific object that the sentence talks about, you literally had a heteronormative answer in CF. You have conceded that that is a pretty bad thing, but even so, you have conceded that you use gendered language in your AC, and then that is a reason to drop you. So you can extend the argument underneath the second Kenny card that the first part of the AC is gendered and uses the word man and he. He has conceded that this is the use of gender pronouns. He has conceded that that's really fucked up and sexist. He has conceded that is a reason to drop him. 2 independent voters, I win there. But let's go to T. Extend the interpretation of the January 2017 topic, the APA specifying the text of the AC whether the applicant's review speech goes maintained by debater schools extent that Golden one clarifies the distinction overview on the T debate. He has conceded competing interps. He has conceded competing interps means we vote for the best possible interpretation, which means that you need to vote for the best possible interpretation. Look at that. He didn't read a counter-interp, which means there's only one interpretation in the round. I automatically win the theory debate. You should not have conceded competing interps. Even so, that means that you have to evaluate the theory through an offense-defense sense. I.e., if I have even a semblance of offense in the theory debate, I win the round there. So now let's go to the standards. Extend the standards. The debater schools are the best ground. They maximize anti-discrimination and minimize the liability. Extend the Golden one evidence. It's going to take out your second argument about durable fiat because our argument is that there are schools in the status quo that have policies that are questioned that might or might not violate the Constitution. You say that this says nothing about constitutionally protected speech. Yes, it does, because constitutionally protected speech is speech that we can restrict without violating the Constitution. That's what constitutionally protected speech is. It is not protected by the Constitution, which means that when debate schools are crafting these policies, there are policies that are already in place that are questionably constitutional, i.e. we don't know if they were still constitutionally protected speech or not because courts haven't ruled on this, which means that the specification is important. It's not a question of schools later shifting their policies, it's a question of status quo schools which have these policies and whether they're included in the scope of the act. Takes out your durable fiat argument. So now it's extending standard, extending stable ground, that this is terminal offense linked to the act. You have conceded this 100% strength of link, outweighs all your arguments to the stable ground makes it impossible to have any sort of debate. Also controls the internal link to your psychoanalysis stuff because there's no way for us to determine whether your psychoanalysis stuff is true or not if we didn't have the ground to do so in the first place. Now I'm going to read a bunch of reasons why CX is not solved. 1. Second, the AC outweighs that takes second as opposed to a line of question that can take the entirety of CX. 2 is based by CX, which I didn't get concessions. They make it impossible for you to get that damning concession that would determine a strategy. You're encouraged to be vague or spend more time and waste to create a vicious cycle. I shouldn't have to wait for CX for you. This is 3, you just be vague and CX. 2 doesn't solve any of these 4 versions. Infinite abuse, you know, you should CX. I'm not enough money for AI, asking about the abuse and waste by CX. 3, I don't ask you, you get away. 2 piece outweighs for 5 for a text. We don't memorize CX questions. We can't hold them to it. 6 abuse by CX. We don't provide text about it. We can still check it. 6 in our but we can also have a text reason why CX checks are good or absolutely bullshit. You said you solve for the app for the entirety, but proof said that doesn't solve for the entire any of the theory shell. Now let's go to overview about how psychoanalysis comes first. You can extend the argument that the theory, and then you can extend the argument that I made at the bottom of the theory shell, which says that that this is false because I'm not requiring, because I'm not prohibiting you from doing something, which means that there's not that kind of position. I'm just saying that you have to do something in order to clarify. I also just say that my will is to be narcissistic or something like that. A point, you can't verify that. There's no way for you, Connor, to know my subconscious desires. 2, I'm the best person to say what my will is, what my subconscious desires are. I'm going to say that I haven't really had that many traumas as a kid, which means that my subconscious desires to make the round fair. You know I'm a theory debater. I love fairness, which means that takes out your argument. 3, it's not verifiable. Don't vote on this argument because there's no way for you, Adam, to know what my subconscious desires are, because there's no way for you to determine whether I'm actually being narcissistic. You don't know my universal trauma, and it's pretty fucked up for you to assume that I have gone through some universal trauma that's made me super narcissistic or made me super authoritarian. At the point where you can't make that assumption. This argument is absolute bullshit. You can also say the other argument I made for why the theory shell doesn't bind into the AC because the entirety of the standards prove that the reason I'm doing this is in order to be fair. But also NC arguments are going to take out that cross-step on theory, which means that if I can win NC arguments where my subconscious desires don't matter, that's going to be a reason for why that cross-step on theory doesn't matter, because who cares about my subconscious desires? So let's go to the NC. First example, he is considered that because negating needs to deny the truth of that. Now let's have a quick overview of the NC. You consider the argument says that the NC just contextualizes how offense links under the AC framework. We might say that interrogating desires is a good thing, but my argument is that we should act with the intent to interrogate subconscious desires. But you have also made sound of the pain evidence, so extend the pain evidence that determinism is true, and that means that we have no moral responsibility. You have conceded that if we have no control over actions, so we have no moral responsibility. You have conceded that you wouldn't say that the state is obligatory, that the state is held morally culpable for a hurricane that it did because it did not cause a hurricane, which means that the state is only held culpable, which people are only held culpable for things that they have caused. The point you conceded that argument, this takes out the entirety of the psychoanalysis case because people cannot be held culpable for subconscious desires because by definition that is something that people cannot control. You have conceded that argument means that the entirety of the AC goes away. But you have also conceded a theoretical justification for why we should prefer the NC framework. So let's go to the analytics. Extend the second argument that agents only have information about their will because all of the facts are uncertain. You have conceded that that's key to equality because all agents have access to their thoughts, but some agents will have more access to studies and stuff like that. You've conceded that means that I automatically because it's a preclusive justification talks about which framework is the best for debate, but also let's extend the Haynes argument, extend that cross-cultural intuition justify that morality requires trying to benefit others with a good will. You've conceded that cross-cultural intuition take out all of your arguments because that means that we said lots of people have found that this was true, so extend the offense, and there's no way to verify that states will be acting with the intent to cite analyze it, that they just want to do to preserve their reputation, and that is not a good will. So this is how the layers work around. First is Connor's gender language and Connor's heteronormative CX answer. Second is the T-shell, and third is the NC.
So 227. Not like flash. The order is going to be theory, the AC, sort of like the Lacan, like the gendered stuff. Or I guess that's a higher layer, so let's start with the gendered stuff, and then theory, and then the NC, which can have explanations for like the AC, the AC program. Is everybody ready?
The CX example is a bad reason to vote me down. It's just an example of us talking about what other psychoanalysts think. For example, you wouldn't vote me down for saying Hitler hated Jews by assuming that means I also hate Jews. We are trying to explain what other psychoanalysts believe, not the use of those words should not be a reason to vote us down. Second, you say it's a misunderstanding that we rely on a binary of gender. You can see with the Lacan evidence we have read that no, Lacan does not say that psychoanalysis requires a static notion of gender, but rather he talks about sex as the foundational moments of our childhood. We were told certain things about sex, certain understandings of the gender binary, and we have to understand these in order to ever subvert our subconscious desires or internally examine ourselves. The argument is not that we require a gender binary for psychoanalysis to function, but rather that psychoanalysis interrogates these gender binaries in the first place. Second, you say third, you say gendered language, reason to vote me down, non-unique. Sure, I didn't respond to this in the 1 hour, but your Kenny cards literally have the word man in them. You can command F that shit. Also, throughout the entirety of your speech, you use things like mankind, humankind, probably worse because you attempt to use this against me as a reason to vote me down while ignoring your own the fact that you're being hypocritical now. Go to the theory. The first layer is the extending durable fiat argument. It's not well answered. You say you can see competing interprets, but no, the entirety of the 1 hour is reasons why durable fiat takes out the interp itself. Our arguments are not based on why it is good that we would have read this text in the AC, which would imply a competing interp. Argument is that you misunderstand durable fiat, which means you don't get your theory shell now. Extended durable fiat makes it literally is the only way we can affirm on this topic that in this topic schools get to fiat a delimiting of speech, just like in the handguns topic, we fiat that the government bans handguns. Obviously, these things would never happen in the status quo. Your Gould evidence says that schools will always try to avoid delimiting free speech. Yes, our argument is that fiat is the only thing that can solve for this. If this is true, it means schools will literally never delimit free speech because they don't have those policies in the status quo, which means they wouldn't just make them up out of the goodness of their own heart. Next, you say CX wouldn't check this, but your CX is pretty bad. Group the first two. No, it is 2 seconds of CX, and you can ask me whether or not my plan text specifies this. Second, you say it is vague and will shift, but it is a super specific question. It means no room to shift out. You say we can check in CX and the text is better, but there's no reason why that's true. You concede that you've not analyzed your internal drive. So our argument is not that you have necessarily that we know what your internal drive is, but that reading theory without internal examination puts forward the authoritarian model in which we get drunk on the abuse of power that theory or creating rules has outweighs your standards because it means authoritarianism and debate is inevitable. Go to the NC. Now, you've only responded to a few arguments that are conceding our intent framing. Now, your version of intent is circular. We do not intend to have a psychoanalytic reflection because we have to understand our drives first. The subconscious drive itself evaluates intention. We subconsciously take actions based on motivated on guilt or self-analysis. Second, you've conceded the argument that gradual ethics denies the possibility of an act of freedom. It is the only way we can become moral subjects. That Kant views ethics as prescriptivist and that we obey certain moral rules. We ought not do X in given scenarios, but that forecloses the ability for either seeing a better future or puts a reactionary policy in which you're only ethical in certain scenarios where you're given a choice whether or not to be ethical, which is bad. Right?
talkative tab working on my phone. Okay, so I think that's still recording. Yeah, great. So I voted negative on the heteronormativity DA. I think that the Zizek evidence makes a decent response to the sexism portion of the Lacan indict, that the woman is the lack, which means that Lacan actually might give ontological priority to women. However, I don't believe that the card answers the heteronormativity question, which is that by forefronting heterosexual kinship in like the description of normal society, that treats gay people as pathological. I do think as well that as per 1AC cross-X, that the casual use of the Freud example might further link into that question of presuming what's normal. I mean, I get that the 1AC is Lacan and you were using a Freud example, but I think I would just refrain then from using any Freudian examples. I'm not clocking in necessarily on you said it in CX. I just think that the Kenny cards are a really strong indict of Lacan too. Like the cards are emphatic. They're like using Lacan's theory for rhetoric, and everything else is just heteronormative and violent and so on. And I don't think the Zizek evidence responds to it quite well enough. That said, I thought that the 1AC was really well constructed, and I thought that you had some really good offense, but I think it's outweighed by this heteronormativity DA, especially when the 2AR doesn't weigh the neoliberalism stuff against this. If the 2AR were to say, look, they might win some risk of the DA to the Lacan stuff, but I'm winning that PC culture creates euphemisms that just mask violence, so that's kind of like a root cause that might matter more. But I don't know, that debate just didn't play out. When it comes to spec, I'm kind of with the negative on like competing interpretations means you need a counter interpretation, but I didn't start there first in my RFD because I thought that would be like a really awkward way to decide a debate. But I'm also with the AF on the durable fiat question too, that if the debate came down to whether schools actually wanted to do the AF, that might make affirming almost impossible. Because the way we design our resolutions is we know this stuff's not actually going to happen anytime soon, but we're debating about whether it should. So I kind of feel unclear where I'd go either way on the spec debate. I just wanted to give my thoughts. So I kind of just considered it a wash. I'm probably also a little bit more with the AF on CX checks as well. The NC. I think that the 1AC had cards to answer this, but didn't execute them as well as I would have liked, which is why I think that the neg is winning that reason should be the starting point in order to escape determinism, because the Kant evidence says that a priori reason escapes causality, and I think that that solves all the arguments about subconscious drives, because the 2NR's argument is that we can't control those, so we need to find a kind of mental point where we can escape all the drives and causality in the first place. So it's kind of like, why investigate them if we can't control them? We should just start with a priori reason. And I think the neg wins from a substantive standpoint, that in order for something to be normative, it has to be done with the proper motivation. And the AF has not demonstrated that these schools have the proper motivation. From like a theoretical, is this fair for the AF standpoint, I'm with you on durable fiat, but on like the substantive question of the framework, I think that you do need to win those motivation. I think if you had made a theoretical argument against this NC, like this NC is unfair because of the durable fiat question, and then cross-applied the abuse to spec, I think that would have been a really effective strategy, but I didn't see enough of that there. I have one last comment too. I think the Zupančić evidence in the 1AC would have been a sick response to the NC, but I'm not sure if it was explained to its fullest extent. So the card explicitly answers Kant, and is like, the problem with a Kantian ethic of the goodwill is that it has like a misleading view of the subject. So when we have a good intention, we're not improving on ourselves, but we are fundamentally recreating a new subject. Like that's like the stuff about ex nihilo creation. So I think that argument would be like, no, this NC is just fundamentally mistaken about moral agency. It's not that we improve on ourselves with good, pure intentions, because that is reactionary. It's rather we create a whole new subject, which is why we need to look at the subconscious drives that produce subjects. But I don't think enough of that was there, and the 1NC kind of flagged that I shouldn't impose my own interpretations onto the debate, which I respect and would not plan on having done anyways. Anyone have any questions?
Do you disclose these?
Yes, 29-4, 29-3.
Thanks.
No problem.
Good job. Thanks for doing that.